So with us today is writer, producer, and actor from the Apple TV Plus show Ted Lasso and Lady Gaga's favorite little monster, Brendan Hunt. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Nice shirt.
Yeah, thanks, right? So starting off, how did you form this idea from Ted Lasso? You play his assistant. Because I know you and Jason go back a pretty long ways. So if you can talk about the inception of the idea and how it formed into this like NBC skit.
Yeah. So it starts at on the set of We're the Millers, which I shot a scene in with Jason, and it was going to be the first scene of the movie. And it's my first big scene in a movie. It was a very exciting day at the office. And then several months later, I get a call from Jason, a good news, bad news phone call. Bad news, they cut your scene out of We're the Millers. And for the record, this was no great tragedy. Even when we were shooting it, I was like, this scene doesn't seem relevant to the story. Oh, well. So bad news, you got cut from We're the Millers. Good news, there's this soccer thing. NBC Sports wanted them to do these promos. So we do these promos, and Ted Lasso didn't exist before that. The notion was there were a few like ideas that were pitched at us, and going with the American college football coach coaching soccer was the one that we were like, oh, we can run with that. But only took the job because it was going to be a few days in London, which sounded very exotic at the time, and they'd fly us out to a Premier League game when the season started, which was, the dream for me. And now it's 8 years later and we're still talking about it. And I'm still in London and going to another game next week. And yeah, weird things happen sometimes from bad news phone calls.
Yeah. And you have a few more years in you at least. So that's exciting. So Coach Beard, was it always Coach Beard? Did you come up with the name?
He didn't have a name in the first one, in the first commercial. I'm not even sure if he had a name in the second commercial or not. But by then, my beard was really flowing, to some heavy duty emo levels. It was something you could sculpt more than comb. You could curate my beard at that point. And yeah, I think we were just looking at the commercials and like, how do we draw from this? What's his character about? And like, in improv, it's like you take the first offer and you run with that. Well, all this character was offering so far was that he has a beard. So he is Coach Beard, and so he has remained.
Awesome. So improv, I know you started at Boom Chicago and Amsterdam, so you've kind of made your way from America and back and forth to Europe quite a bit. And you just had a baby, so congrats on that.
Thank you.
You're stationed in London right now. You're there pretty much for good.
Not for good by any means, but we are late in shooting season 2, so we're here for another month or so, and it will at this point in season 1, we'd already been home for 2 weeks, so definitely starting to feel the pangs of wanting a moon's over my hammy. Like, I haven't had Denny's in years, and now I'd kill for Denny's.
So another part of Coach Beard, I like how each character kind of adds something personally to their role. And something that you slip in is that you were a chess team champ from Illinois State, I believe. Was that real? Were you actually a chess team champ?
No, but at my high school, which my high school had the same nerds v jocks thing of any school, but it was a little corny at my school because like athletically we weren't good at anything. But then one year our chess team won state, and they wore their letter jackets with such pride, and their team picture in the yearbook that year was like, the Allman Brothers posing for an album cover. Like, it was just a bunch of nerds like doing this in totally different poses, like red eagles, like this, like fantastic stuff. And those were friends of mine, and so I'm just trying to salute them in this way.
Yeah, that's great. So this doesn't mean to come off badly, but Coach Beard may have the fewest number of lines in the show, but I think the way that you deliver them still makes him like his own character. And that's kind of what I love about the show too, is that all of these supporting characters, everyone is on an even playing field. So I guess what attracted you to that role? I know, the idea had come beforehand, but in wanting to develop the character, I guess how did you think of doing that through season one, and then where we leave off with Coach Beard, how do you expect to do that through season 2 and 3?
Well, Beard's whole raison d'etre, which I don't even know what that means in English. I've just figured out the context of it. People have said it in French so many times. Is to compliment Ted. We think the backstory might be like, Beard went a little too far in living whatever life he was living, and then Ted basically rescued him, and now he owes Ted in some way, so I've just tried to be that same kind of vibe of like, I'm just trying to complement this whole production. Like we have a great cast, and we have great writers, and we have great directors and designers, and it's a great crew, and like everyone's bringing everything they can to the table, and in the service of the project. So, and that's like even back at theater school, like our acting teachers were the main thing was serve the play. What is this script? What does it need? What does it need from you? Serve the play. So yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying it, but all I'm trying to do is serve the piece and serve what the piece needs. And one thing it needs is for a Beard who is there to serve.
I mean, you do serve Ted, and late in the season in episode 9, you kind of snap. You kind of yell at him that winning is important at some level, and you discuss the repercussions of what could happen if they don't win against Man City in the final. So, and I want to see more of that. He comes into his own. He's not just the yes man to Ted in that moment, and I think that's awesome. So is there some independence that he might grow into in season 2?
I think independence is not something he's even after. I mean, I think he feels independent, because when he's on his own, he's on his own. Whether or not we ever discover those journeys remains to be seen. But yeah, I'm not allowed to give anything away about season 2. I see what you're doing.
Trying to trick you.
So no, I think he's very content just to be there, and I think he's bailed friends out of jail before, and that's when he realized he needed a cell phone. And he probably won't have to bail Ted out of jail, but he's just ready to.
Who knows? Yeah. So speak about some of your producing credits and writing credits apart from just the Coach Beard acting experience. How is it doing all 3 on a show like this, and being in that writer's room, but also maybe having some say behind the scenes at what happens on screen?
Sure. Well, it's my first time doing all these things for a TV show, and it's cool. It's very involving. It's very draining, but draining in the best way. Previous to this, I've written for shows and I've been on shows, but I've also written a lot of like things for the stage that I'm in, either solo shows or plays that I am in with a cast. And I can't quite say why I love doing it that way, but I just do. Like, I get asked every once in a while, like, do you prefer performing or being behind the scenes? And the answer is I prefer being behind the scenes on things in which I'm also performing. I like the totality of that. I like being able to influence the project to the best of my ability, come from so many angles. But for this project, yeah, again, you're just trying to complement the thing as a whole. I think it's very healthy that I play a character who doesn't speak much. Because if I was, the producing and the writing and the talking a lot, Jason's got that covered. I mean, we don't need two people doing that. Yeah, that helps me, keep my head down in the healthiest way. And because even though it's called Ted Lasso, even though, there's a clear lead, we all think of it as an ensemble show. We're all trying to make sure everybody gets represented enough and has fun things to do. And it's cool that everyone, without even questioning it, everyone has that same goal.
What can you pinpoint, what your favorite mark has been that you made on the show?
Well, Mark has been. I think all of us in the writers' room and the cast, especially, we all affect the show in more ways than we know. Especially when we're just being locked in. So, if there's one thing that I like is that very early on, as a lover of American sports culture and English sports culture, had sort of identified this notion that, in America we say, "Do you believe in miracles?" And in England they say, "It's the hope that kills you." I think there is tremendous beauty in both those sentiments, and I'm very happy that became such a central part of the end of the season.
You mentioned writing your own shows a little bit ago, and you did a show, I think, early on in The Second City, playing Roy Keane. Does that character come through at all in the show? Either through Roy Kent, is there any resemblance there, or with Coach Beard?
So when me and Jason and Joe were in Amsterdam and getting into soccer in various ways, Roy Keane was a just tyrannical presence in the midfields of English football pitches, and playing for Ireland. And he had this highly controversial, legendary quitting on the Irish team at the World Cup. And he took no guff. He suffered no fools, and he was a very charismatic figure. And so when we were putting a show together, with about the coach who's the nicest guy in the world, what's the quickest foil that comes to mind? Well, how does he deal with Roy Keane? Roy Kent is not quite Roy Keane. First of all, he's English, not Irish, and there's various other differences. But I will say, when we were writing the pilot, okay, we'll think of a name for this character, but for now, let's call him Roy Kent. And really thought we'd have thought a different name by now. And even when we sent out the sides for auditions and stuff, I was like, "Oh, guys, this still says Roy Kent. We're gonna change that, right?" And I was like, "No, Roy Kent, great name." "No, it isn't. No, it's not. So, but it's all a sign of love. We absolutely love Roy Kent. He's still on TV out here. He's a studio pundit. Does a great, still take no prisoners job. Just hitting the hard truths. So hopefully he takes all this in the right spirit.
That's awesome. So apart from Ted Lasso, are you working on anything else? I guess, with your foot in the door, behind the scenes and producing and writing, are you kind of eager to do more of that in the future?
Yeah. I'm going to let this thing run its course. It's hard to do much more than this, because, it just takes so much of us, again, in the best possible way. But yeah, I've got a sort of a pilot cooking, at least in my head, and some other people's laptops. But in particular, I like writing plays, and my big life asterisk of the pandemic, and obviously there are many worse ones than this, but a play of mine was about to open at the Kirk Douglas in Los Angeles 5 days after lockdown started.
Wow. Okay.
I really like that play. I really think a lot of people could like that play. I don't want that play to die.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's called The Art Couple. I'm really proud of it, and hopefully I'll get another stroll around the park at some point.
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of shows that I wanted to see, and I really do hope it gets to see the light of day again. I think we're close, and hopefully there's a path. If in LA or London, who knows? Wherever you can get it in, I guess. Okay, Brendan, I am very excited to see what's in store for season 2. I can't wait to see more of Coach Beard. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Cheers.